December 12th, 2007. First letter to Melia. On a cold Minnesota night, I write you. I'll mail the letter to your stepmother's house. It's the only address I have. It's been over a year since we were thrown into the back of separate trucks. Over 3 since the nightmare ended, for me at least. I want to apologize, Mimi. It was all my idea to run away. I'm sorry I convinced you to come. I'm sorry I called you names and called our lives boring. If I could do it all again, I would.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home.
When I was little, I couldn't wait to grow up. Couldn't wait to dive into the world. Like everybody else, I had big dreams of who I would be, what kind of job I would have, friends I would hang out with, where I would live.
And I know I never in a million years imagined
my life
to
be anything like this.
Fatuma, 17 years old.
I moved to the Twin Cities 8 years ago with my mother and brother from Somalia. My mother doesn't speak English very well, so she relies on me. I worked 2 jobs to pay the bills and take care of the family. I didn't mind. About 4 years ago, I made the decision to remove the hijab. I remember some of the neighbors hissing at me and the small children, but nothing more than disdain. Then, one night, on my way home from work, one of the Somali gangs cornered me. They dragged me beneath the apartment complex, and they tore off my clothes. That's all they did, an act of humiliation. Then I remember one of them saying, "You shouldn't mind, because you don't even cover your face." The gang leader held a knife to my neck and told me if I didn't become the gang's whore for rent, they would gang rape my mother and kill my brother. My decision was obvious. I remember my grandmother back home. She used to say, "Don't judge others until you walked in their shoes." We all make decisions, yes, but some of us are forced into them.
May, 13 years old.
My story's different, that my pimp wasn't a man. It was a woman I trusted, Isabel. She was a half-caste and would come to the reservation once a week to sell odd things like jewelry and hats. She was always kind to young girls and would always take them for rides in her new cars. Then one day, she offered me a ride. I'll never stop regretting that I took it. I was only 12. She said, "We're going to go to her house and meet her family." There were 3 men there, really old and ugly men with liquor and alcohol and drugs and food. They fed me and tried to give me liquor, but I refused. Then it started getting dark, so I asked to go home. She just kept smoking and laughing and sitting on the laps of men. I begged her to take me home. She just jumped up and yelled, "Shut up! You're never going home, stupid! This is your new home!" I was scared. I had no idea where I was or what her real name was. No way to call home. I remember crying and crying. The men held me down and drugged me. That was the last I remember of the old me. The next morning, I was lying naked in between the men. She was gone. Countless days of sexual and physical abuse over and over and over. Then Isabel showed up about 3 months later with 2 other girls. She then put me back into her car and drove me to the reservation. She said, "Get out. You're damaged goods." What did I do to deserve this? I was the good girl, made good grades in school, and always listened to my elders. Things like this weren't supposed to happen to girls like me. I had never laid with a man. I was ashamed, so I kept my lips closed, buried a secret inside me.
Becca, 20 years old.
I remember reading somewhere when I was little that we're all just parts of a whole, like raindrops falling into the ocean, you know? I was never told that I was ugly or fat or stupid, but I can't remember a single time when anybody ever told me that I was beautiful or special even. I do, however, remember being told that I was just like the next girl, another average, plain-faced, white-bread, run-of-the-mill girl headed nowhere fast from some okey-doke suburb called Woodbury. Sounds sad when I say it out loud, but it was no big deal. I'm just one woman in a sea of millions. You see, not everybody is born into a family or a community where every passing moment is dedicated to making them feel like somebody. You would never expect your daughters or sisters to get caught up in it, but you'd be surprised by the girls who do. The why I did it is unimportant, but it seems to be the only thing that anybody ever wants to know. The truth is, I wanted somebody to talk to. I wanted somebody to care about me that didn't have to pretend to like me. Sounds silly, right? He called himself Led. You don't want to know why. And he gave me the street name Rose Blue. I was 17 years old, and he was like the daddy I never had. I loved him, trusted him, and eventually I did anything he'd asked me to do, including, and certainly to my own surprise, having sex for money, even with his best friends. Refusing was a non-option. So I told myself that I was the one calling the shots. In the beginning, I led myself to believe I was doing it to pay for college. Once you get sucked in, you get addicted to the lifestyle, to the money. I turned nearly $1,500 a day worth of tricks for him. Some days I felt like I was living on top of the world, sporting diamonds and fur, wearing stilettos, driving a Benz. But the truth is, I felt like crap. Yeah, I never told anybody that. Not even him.
Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. A long way from home.
May 3rd, 2009. 9th letter to Amelia. On the news last night, there was a special about sex trafficking in Minnesota. It talked about how the victims are getting younger and younger and how pimps take advantage of them. It talked about Minnesota's geography making it easy and how girls were sold to ships of sailors and left at truck stops. Sound familiar? I couldn't believe it was this big. It made me angry, Mimi. It wasn't our fault. We didn't ask for that. Write me back. I want to talk about what we went through.
A few months ago, the feds raided Led's house and took everything. Photos, videos, money, other stuff. The arresting officer sat me down and talked to me about my options for seeking help and support. And then out of nowhere, she did the strangest thing. She lifted me up off the ground, wrapped her arms around me, and hugged me for a long time, like she meant it. I can't remember a time I ever felt that good. I don't think I've even ever cried that hard. I took her card. I called her a couple of days later, and she's been helping me get back on my feet. And if you can believe it, I'm starting community college in the fall. I don't pretend to be newly perfect or saved or anything, but I am committed to learning the meaning of these two words, self-worth.
For a long time, I thought it would be best for myself and my family to stay silent. But after watching young girls like myself get snatched and taken away to be raped like that, I decided to speak out. I found a counselor I can trust and confided in her. She's helping me to work through with the pain and myself, and helped me to write a book about my life on the res and about the 3-month disappearance. I hope somebody reads it and can also be inspired to save the life of another. About a month ago, I formed a circle of keepsake watchers. They are a group of young girls who look out for each other and report suspicious people in our community. Since then, the incidents have decreased. No, we are not trying to save the world. We are just trying to preserve a small sense of security for those who need it.
I couldn't fathom a way out. Then, one day, my brother wrote a letter, and he placed it beneath my pillow, and it read, "When one of us is dying, we all die. Save us." Some people spend their lives feeling trapped, no way out, just waiting for somebody to walk by and reach into their frail frames and pull out something still worth looking at. Someone that helped them believe that they're better than the hand that's been dealt to them. I walked away that day, just like that. I went to the gang leader and I told him that my family was stronger than their threats. He just laughed and said, "Go on," as if they hadn't robbed me of my precious innocence. I went through a terrible ordeal, yes, but it did not win. And to the day I die, I am dedicated to dismembering Somali gangs.
Sometimes I feel like a bird in the sky. Sometimes I feel like a bird in the sky. Sometimes I feel like a bird in the sky. A long, long way from home.
September 13th, 2010. Last letter to Melia. If you ever decide to come back, Mimi, there are people here that can help. I'm a social worker now, counseling girls who are victims like us. Imagine that, huh? Melia, I know you're alive. Please come home.
This is not a sob story, not a eulogy for those left under bridges or in dark alleys. We are living and breathing success stories.
We got out of a system that kills girls like us every day.
Look at us. We are girls that have been bent and broken, had to retrain ourselves to love ourselves again. So,
No, we will not be silenced.
It's been years since the last John. years. But each day, we smile when we look in the mirror because one day, someone saw us fall down, reached out an extended hand, and whispered, "Get up, girl.
You're stronger than you know.
Get up." Minnesota girls are not for sale.
We are survivors because someone believed in us.
Sometimes I feel like a bird in the sky. Sometimes I feel like a bird in the sky. Sometimes I feel like a bird in the sky. A long, long way, a long, long way from home.
Thank you.